A profound conversation tonight about a family that's, working it out in a special way. Welcome in to My State of Mind. I am Dan York. It is an honor and a pleasure to have you. I say that a lot because it's true. And based on latest data, the word on the street is that the show is growing, and I thank you very much for that. And, some days we're actually able to take the pedal off the political metal and talk about things that are about real life. And everybody in southern New England, I think, knows the Matty Fund by name, but you may not know what it does and why and what the story is behind it, and we'll cover that tonight if that's okay with you. So let us hustle to the rundown and cover some of the things that are going on in the world. Yeah, you know what? This might be some self-fulfilling prophecy, to be honest with you. This is economic development the 195 way. I'm getting confused as to what the mission statement is there. I'm also a little confused over the idea that we may negotiate the pension deal that the state traumatized itself with 3 years ago. It is such a dangling participle. What else do we have for you this evening? Well, yeah, he is done, and the NFL all of a sudden has got all this soul. It's interesting. Very good economic news when it comes to college basketball, and of course, we need to check in on your state of mind. So let's dig into the rundown, and then we'll meet our special guest this evening. Worries in Ferguson? Yeah, there's plenty of them. Here's the headline. The governor declares state of emergency in Ferguson. You know what this is all about. CBS reminds you.
Last night, Pastor Robert White met with protest organizers at the Greater St. Mark Family Church in Ferguson to discuss the governor's declaration.
It's almost like they're preparing for war.
What are you telling people in the community?
We believe we have the right to assemble until we're told we can't.
The executive order was signed by Governor Jay Nixon Monday, authorizing the Missouri National Guard to help keep the peace when the grand jury decision is handed up.
We do not want to make this look like it's a militarization of our police department.
The mayor of St. Louis addressed the deployment and said the Guard will be playing a support role to the larger unified command.
What's interesting about all this is this Missouri governor, Governor Nixon, was awful mouthy about this case more or less coming to some kind of guilty conclusion way long ago now. And so he kind of helped to set up this fervor and fever. I will tell you that if you look into this story, most of Ferguson would just like to have some peace. But out-of-towners are going to come running in there at a moment's notice on this indictment news if there is no indictment. And there are a lot of law enforcement types who keep arguing when you learn the facts, there may not be an indictment. I have no idea which way that's going to go, but I know this, that there are a lot of players, and not just the protesters, that have a hand and a responsibility, but what may go wrong there. Stay tuned. That'll be a day-by-day type of situation. Our next item for this evening is this notion. That's what it's called. It went for a discount because it's impaired. I don't know, man. Here's the headline. When I opened up the paper today and I saw this news and this headline, I thought to myself, is that all we got? I mean, here's the look at 195. You've seen this parcel before. The actual impaired land that went for $2.75 million or so is just under the Knowledge District there. It's along Chestnut Street, so it's one of the first orange little spots there. And the reason why the land is impaired and will go to a developer from Texas who will spend $50 million on 500 rental units is because it's across from bars. Get it? They come out impaired, so the land is impaired. When we're looking for an economic development spark in Rhode Island and this jewel property at 195, didn't you want to see headlines that were a whole lot more exciting and substantial than 500 apartments that a bunch of drunk kids can rent across from the impaired facilities that keep them impaired? I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but my goodness. Now, there's a bunch of good things that are going down with the 195 parcel, but it's all educationally based, and there's plenty of land there that needs to spark economics. I'm not sure 500 beds does it, but that's just me. Next item. Pension talks. We need a pension case. We don't need pension talks. And we've lost our way in this, it seems. Headline at WPRI.com talks about the idea that you know, in legal jeopardy. Our pension reform still lingers in limbo for some, 3 years now. The case is about the unions who predictably sued the state of Rhode Island, the governor, the treasurer, and the treasurer's board there, the pension board, over the statutory change in pensions. And our governor-elect, now treasurer, but Governor-elect Gina Raimondo, seen here, and Nick Mattiello, our House Speaker, seen here, and Teresa Pavloid, seen here, the Senate President, all now are kind of, small talking about the idea they'd be willing to settle this case. What's missing in that dynamic is that we need some kind of judicial decision of some kind of profound level to determine now and forever what the General Assembly can legally do to change these numbers, up or down. And the Superior Court judge who's blown this case to kingdom come by trying to make it political and negotiation rather than trying the case has set up a bad environment here. Gina Raimondo says she's willing to settle. She's willing to accept the settlement that was rejected by was approved by all but one union. But missing even in the settlement talks is the idea that we got to know whether the General Assembly has the juice and the power to change statute. Sorry to get you all bogged down on process, but we need to make that call. And the Supreme Court of our state should have it. Anyway, what are you going to do? It's political. Surprise. NFL. He's done for a year. Yes, Mr. Peterson, who just wowed us with his running back skills for the Minnesota Vikings, also, I guess, had a little temper as a parent. And back in the days when a switch was used, by the way, 2 generations ago in my family, the switch was used. I saw the cat and nine tails that my grandfather occasionally pulled out, and there's some pretty bad war stories about that, and I would suggest that those days should be bygone. But here's the latest in the proceedings.
The NFL suspended Adrian Peterson without pay for at least the remainder of the 2014 season. The league said in a statement that Peterson had violated its personal conduct policy in what it called an incident of abusive discipline that he inflicted on his 4-year-old son.
Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Vikings star player pled no contest 2 weeks ago in a Texas court to 1 misdemeanor count of reckless assault of a child. He admits using a thin tree branch to discipline his son. The switch left cuts and bruises on the boy's body.
So when you see this headline that he's been suspended for the rest of the season, it's profound. He's also appealing. We'll see how that whole thing goes. He's persona non grata right now until he gains a couple of thousand yards, which he's guaranteed to do when he comes back. And then we'll see. Then we'll see what the market reaction is. Hey, speaking of sports, the business of sports, pretty good news at the Dunkin' Donuts Center, formerly known as the Providence Civic Center. Here's the headline on this one. Excellent. You turned out en masse last time we had the games, and now, come next year, you'll have a chance to see the NCAA rounds 1 and 2 at the Dunk. See what happens when we all turn out. See what happens when we sell out. See what happens when the NCAA says, yeah, we'll put it back there. There'll be some, I don't know, close to 1,000 rooms that'll be sold. The economics of this will stretch over 8 to 10 hotels, I believe, and all the restaurants in town will benefit from that. Great jolt for the economy on what's supposedly a slow year for downtown and sports. So those 2016 tickets, I'm told, might come out for sale in June of 2015. So put that on your calendar. Nicely done. Now, it is time for your state of mind. And this is how I know, because, I moved this segment up in the show, but sometimes I forget. Jess put out a couple of notes here for me. I said, Jess, you got to find a way to remind me that I got to go to your state of mind. Well, this is what it's like to be tortured by Jessica, who runs this show. 3 notes, all under the cameras that I'm looking at. So now that I remember, here's how you get in touch with the show. Full Monty here with your state of mind. 228-1886 is the number. Email me, Facebook post, tweet at us. And here's a nice call that we got.
My daughter, Mackenzie, who is 11 years old, is very smart. She really is interested in politics. She does not want to run for office in Rhode Island for several different reasons. But she loves to watch your show and says that you've got quite a following of younger viewers. and, who are interested in politics and interested in what is going on in Rhode Island.
But she doesn't want to run yet. Did he say, how old is she? 11, 12 years old? Or is it yeah, listen, hey, Dad, bring Mackenzie in. Let's find out what she knows. She could probably teach us a lesson or two. We love the kids on the show. And Mackenzie, thanks for watching and for spreading the word. Bring some of your political friends. We'd love to have your perspective. All right, when we come back, the Matty Fund. You know about it. You'll know more about it when we return. I'm always flummoxed by parents who suffer great loss and then who turn the loss into something constructive, the likes of which the Sarabos have done. I'm not good at this stuff. I'm good at a lot of stuff, but you get to the stuff about family, and I'm not good because I feel it like every parent feels it. So good luck to me in this conversation. Deb and Richard are here. They hardly need to be introduced because how long has it been? Welcome, by the way. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us.
How long? And by the way, don't take turns. Just go. It's almost 12 years.
Yep. 11 and a half years ago, if you want to hear the story.
Yeah, well, the people need to know the story because it means everything to you and has inspired you. So Matty's story is...
11 and a half years ago, Mother's Day 2003, we lost Matty due to status epilepticus, which is a prolonged seizure. Matty was a candidate for surgery at a local children's hospital, and we took him there to help him, and we came home without him. And 1 month later, we found ourselves helping children and families throughout the state dealing with epilepsy. It was
1 month later.
1 month later.
1 month later?
It's a very difficult thing, losing a child, and we worked so hard with Matthew. He had some special needs, and we spent a lot of time trying to help him. And when he passed away, we had such a void, and we had 3 other boys that we had to be role models for. So we decided to start this foundation in his memory. And from that, it has grown. We have the state-of-the-art Epilepsy Resource Center now that we help so many children and families, and we have all kinds of programs. And we never envisioned it growing as much as it has. It was so tragic for us. And believe me, I don't know how we got out of bed in the morning, but this has enabled us to move forward.
Most people would say a month. That wasn't enough time. Proof's in the pudding. That you were able to constructively apply yourselves to this whole thing, but somewhere along the line you hit a wall, and it wasn't within that 30-day period, I'm sure, right? I mean, has it been a continuous process where you've been able to mourn and grow and fix and do and suffer and let all of that together? How does that work?
I think, Dan, that part of the process was grieving, enabling us to help children and families, enable us to reach out to the community, surrounding ourselves with community members, doctors, parents, teachers that Matty attended school in town, and the first year we built a state-of-the-art handicap accessible playground. So all of that work, time, effort, dedication enabled us to not only grieve, but only memorialize and do something positive in Matty's memory.
In the community really came out of the woodwork to support us, and through their efforts of helping us, we were able to turn it around and help other people.
All right.
And nothing we can do that will bring Matthew back.
No.
Nothing. But when you see a child that you're helping and have that smile on their face, and it's so difficult when someone has seizures. It's so hard to control. You never know when the next seizure is coming about. So much anxiety.
Yeah, what you don't know is I have 2 family members with epilepsy.
You do?
Yeah, I have a sister who is, I'm 53, so she's 47. I remember one day when I was 16, 17, fighting with her in her bedroom. She was doing something I didn't like. And all of a sudden, she fell down and she was bouncing off the floor. And so she had what was one of the grand mal seizures. And I remember my parents having told me, one thing you want to do is put your finger in her mouth so that she didn't swallow her tongue. So I remember that. She's doing very well, but she has continually to have to change medication and the like and all the time. But I remember the trauma of that and literally having holes in my fingers for weeks on end from the strength of her. So I get it, and actually I have a nephew who deals with it. So I understand how difficult it is for families to try to deal with it. But what you had to deal with is something that you are trying to prevent, obviously.
Exactly.
And for the most part, there's been a lot of progress, correct?
Absolutely.
When we come back, we'll talk about the progress. We'll talk about a lot of the events that you can participate in, as not only this month celebrates the effort, but the year is always full. And we'll try to get the road race on a non-controversial day. Stay with us. A little bit of footage from what is known as Camp Matty. That sounds like a lot of fun, huh?
Oh, Camp Matty is wonderful. Oh my goodness.
What's it all about?
Well, Camp Matty, first the idea came about when Matty was young. He always loved horses, and we heard about the program that has therapeutic benefits to riding a horse to help children with special needs. And so, unfortunately, Matty never got to take part in it. So we decided to do Camp Matty, and it's 2 weeks of therapeutic horseback riding where the child is able to just really have a fun day and not worry about medications, not worry about anxiety. And they're surrounded by people that are just like them.
Yeah.
And the families get to talk, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful time.
You got a lot of things that go on year round. I have to have some fun with it. Throw the video up of the race. I couldn't believe this last year. When it came up on the radio, I was like, wait a second. They're busting these people's horns so they ran the race. It was on Memorial Day, and listen, it's a very important day, but it's hardly sacrilegious to run something so profound on it. What did the calendar just fell, and you're running it in June this year. Is that what I saw? You're staying clear of any difficulty?
We got caught in a political crossfire.
You know, it's like,
we're really trying to.
Well, listen, when you're involved in something so public for this long length of time, you got to run into some kind of controversy, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You've learned not to say a damn thing about it, I've noticed, so I shall just move on. But the race this year is in June, correct?
We're working on the race this year.
We'll get back to you on what day the race is. I can promise you we'll thumbs up the date here. Progress is being made, big time.
Absolutely.
Talk about it.
The Matty Fund, Dan, right from the beginning, one of the areas that Deb and I wanted to contribute to was research. One of the first few years, we contributed to an organization called CURE in Chicago, Citizens United for Research of Epilepsy. And then as time went on, we wanted to partner with local entities. So from that point on, we've been partnering with Brown University, not only with research. We've done collaborations, we've done workshops, we've performed research symposiums. We've recently, this month, during Epilepsy Awareness Month, we had a collaboration with the Norman Prince Institute, with the Brain Injury Association.
Wow.
We bring in a doctor from across the country, a nationally renowned doctor, every year in November. This year we brought a doctor in from UC Irvine.
You know what's interesting about your discussion? You know, whenever we've done things at Hasbro and I meet these parents who have kids who are physically, healthily challenged, you almost become a doctor yourself. I mean, all due respect to the real medical credentials necessary, but you become so informed about the situation that you can make some calls a little bit, and you can give advice from time to time. I'm sure, as you were dealing with Matty when he was battling, and now that you've gotten so involved, you're walking encyclopedias in this thing called epilepsy, yes?
Yes, and we have people on staff that answers telephone calls or meets with parents to sit down with them, any concerns they have, because knowledge is power.
So the staff, meaning staff, so this is a fully functional organization that runs day in, day out, yes?
Yes.
We have a Rhode Island's leading epilepsy resource center in Wakefield.
Okay.
And it's housed by 4 individuals. My wife and I are not there on a daily basis. We're kind of the founders, so to speak. We have an executive director. We have somebody who's an outreach to parents. We have a woman who's administrative assistant. So we have different people in place. We also have a medical advisory board that gives us the latest technology, what's going on, the latest beat.
And with that, you've created some tools like the book My Friend Matty. Talk to me about that.
So My Friend Matty is a book that my husband and I wrote after Matty passed. Took 2 years to come to fruition, but we take it to the schools, the elementary schools, and we have an ancillary materials, the whole curriculum that goes along with it that educates the children on what epilepsy is and isn't, and how to accept the child for who he or she is, and it's in a positive manner. And what I'd like to say also is that if there is anyone out there that's listening that have children that are affected by epilepsy,
I'm sure
please
there
contact the Matty Fund, because help is out there for these families. We didn't have that support. We didn't know anyone when Matty first started getting sick.
So is it a lonely feeling? Is it a lonely
Absolutely.
feeling?
Yes.
You feel isolated,
Yes.
and like you're the only one going through it, especially if you have no one else in the family that had a similar diagnosis. And for us, he was the first one. Matty had 3 older brothers that were, obviously perfectly healthy, all-star athletes, went on to college, did all the normal protocols, while Matty, struggled those first 5 years before his demise. So for us, it was like isolation.
Right.
And one of the things that Deb and I looked at after we came home without Matty is like, we need to do something for
these.
parents going through this.
So we have like pumpkin festival. We just had 2 pumpkin festivals, one in the southern part of Rhode Island, one in the northern part of Rhode Island.
So you got that, you got the race. What
We
else
have
did
an
you do real
egg
quick
hunt.
over the course of the
We
year?
have all kinds of programs for the children. And recently
talent
we were
show?
chosen by the Rite Aid.
Right.
Can you talk
Yeah,
about that?
Rite Aid selected us as a recipient of the Kids Cent program. It's a grant that they've picked 2 organizations in the state of Rhode Island. We're one of 2, and only 200 throughout the country. And it's a wellness program. We were very delighted to be
Honored.
selected and honored for that program.
Well, I got to have you back to expand on all these programs. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All these years later, condolences, but congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Final word. One more thing, I just want to emphasize that really, if you are a parent of a child that you may think has some kind of epileptic condition, or somebody, it is a kind of an isolating thing, and you should reach out to the Matty Fund at mattyfund.org, so please do that. Coming up tomorrow, this Roadmap RI thing has gotten very controversial, and we literally have a deadline this week for the planners who are federally funded to put the final touch and signature on a plan that was touted as economic development and has turned out to be more of a social equity program. We'll have Mike Stenhouse from the Center for Freedom and Prosperity, tomorrow, and we'll talk about it. I'll see you on the radio at noon on WPRO. Have a great night. Thanks for watching.